Hi, I'm Dr. Michelle. And the question I want to address today is, who are you? Or maybe, who am I? Many of us lose track of who we are very early in our childhood. I believe that all of us are born as these amazing souls, and we are these human spiritual seeds waiting to burst forth into life in this three-dimensional plane. And we go through a life journey that sometimes we feel it's hard or difficult. It tamps us down. It tamped me down. I didn't know who I was. I was so busy trying to figure out how to please everybody else. Sometimes you go through life trying to protect yourself, which was what I was doing, trying to protect myself, making sure that everybody liked me because I didn't like to be rejected. And in the process, I lost who I was for a very long time. And maybe you have struggled with this too. Like, who are you? Who are you really under all of the habits, under all of the defenses? I was on a telephone call with somebody not too long ago, and we've been on the phone for 45 minutes. And finally I said, I have no idea who you are, because she just overwhelmed me with all these words, but I couldn't find out who she was behind all the words. Sometimes I think maybe I'm a little like that I have so much going on in my mind that I want to share, that I'm not here. I'm not totally present for you. And so today I'm taking a risk. I have no idea what I'm going to say today. Just the idea, who are you? Or who am I? And to allow myself to not have an agenda other than that question, who am I? What does that mean? What does it mean to let go of the protection? What does it mean to let go of the facade, the mask, and get down into who I really am and share that with you? Like, here I am. I'm the kind of person who practices their speeches 20 times, and that's a 7-minute speech before I go in front of people. So here I am, right here. And I've invited you to share your questions so that I can address those questions and have something to talk about. But nobody shared any questions yet. So please share your questions. I can't see them here in Facebook Live because for some reason with a Mac, they don't allow me to see if anybody's commenting, which I think is pretty rotten. There might be some trick, but I haven't figured it out. So questions. The other day, one of my clients asked, what do I do when I get triggered? When I feel afraid? And I thought about that. Yesterday I had talked about emotions and how we're taught to tamp down our emotions or only allow them at a certain level. Like, it's okay to be sorrowful, but not too sorrowful. You don't want to get hysterical because the people think you're weird or they want to avoid you. Anger is the same way. A certain amount of anger is okay, but too much anger and you are seen as aggressive or violent or unsafe. But here's the complication. It really depends on who is in your community, what is considered okay. And when you move from one community to another, the parameters change. So for example, I might seem very reserved. Actually, I don't think I'm ever seem reserved. But maybe among Italians, I might seem reserved. But among the British, I was talking about them yesterday, I might seem very effusive, overwhelming, passionate. Actually, I am passionate. I've been reading a book on astrology and archetypes. And I've been going through the different signs that appear somewhat strongly in my chart and saying, oh, that's why I'm like that. But is that who I am? Is that who I am? Who am I? Who am I without the facade? Who am I without the intellectual trappings? Who am I without the knowledge that I share? How do I just share myself? How do you share yourself? How do you be totally present and in the moment and aware? Like, oh, look, flowers, red colors, trees, sound. It's quiet here today. Yesterday when I recorded, it was really, well, my husband was outside with his worker and they were using some really noisy saw and it sounded like a really angry mosquito in the background the whole time. Let me go back to the emotions again, because that's kind of my thing, really interested in emotions, because for so many years I tamped down my own emotions. And so I wasn't really who I was. I was busy being intelligent and competent and helpful and the good girl. And I held back my emotions, except when they would blast out, which they do when we tamp our emotions down. So some of the other emotions, I talked yesterday a lot about grief and sorrow and how we're encouraged to tamp it down as soon as we can, and the people are uncomfortable around somebody who is grieving, and sometimes they avoid them, or oftentimes they avoid them unless they've gone through grief themselves, and then they might have some space for that. But what about fear? How do you deal with fear? Well, actually, I deal with all my emotions by paying attention to them. My sense is that emotions are the body's way of communicating to me. So if I'm feeling happy and excited or passionate, then I think my body's doing pretty good. It's happy. But if I'm fearful, then what is it trying to tell me? And where in my body is that fear? And go to that place and say, oh, so where do you hold your fear? Do you hold it in your throat? Do you hold it in your chest? Do you hold it in your belly? The interesting thing is, I've studied psychosomatics, is that depending on where you hold your fear, that tells you something about what the issue is that's involved. For example, if you hold your fear in your throat, like your throat gets really tight, it could mean that the fear is around expression, expressing yourself, sharing your true message. My true message is live your passion, live what you're here for. Be courageous, step in. And if you have difficulty with that, I'm here to help you, because that's my mission, is to empower people, women, to overcome their fears so that they can claim their true power. How can I help? Well, I've been on that journey for a long time. I know a lot of tricks. I know a lot of ways to do that. So checking in with my place, where do I hold my fear? I hold my fear in my throat, right here, right here. It's like something needs to come out. What needs to be said? What needs to be said? Can I take a moment to stop? Can I take a moment to listen? Most of us are so busy running around all the time, getting things done. That, by the way, is another way in which we stop worrying about who we are. We're too busy to even notice. Underneath that seed, that original seed that is who we are, has this message, this urgency to emerge. And so there's this pressure, this tension between our habits that tamp that seed down, that hold it into place so it doesn't get out and it doesn't get scary, and the seed's desire to burst forth. When you think about plants, they're amazing because sometimes they break through concrete. they'd break through all kinds of things because the force, that desire, that intention, that DNA, that code is so compelling that it bursts forth. If we were all plant seeds, we wouldn't have any problem because there would be nothing that would stop us. We might not grow as voluptuously as some other plant if we're planted in rocky soil, but we will still do the best we can with whatever circumstance we have. Well, what if we do that now? What if we just say, I'm going to do the best with whatever circumstance I have right now? Make the most of it. Oh my gosh, it makes me cry to think about that. To say yes to who I am. Yes to why I'm here. Yes to every moment. To say, it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to get angry. Take that in a moment. So if you were, see, I didn't even give you a moment. That little mind of mine is like, oh no, there's silence. I better jump in there right away. Just take a moment. Who would you be if you would just relax? I'm working with an Alexander technique therapist who teaches me how to relax the muscles in my body so that I'm only using the muscles that are actually needed. We actually activate a whole lot more muscles than ever we need, and that's part of why we're exhausted, is we're using way too much of our muscles. And a lot of that muscular energy is protection energy. It's a shield to protect us from being criticized, or a shield to protect us from finding out who we are, or being rejected. But when we breathe, do you know when you breathe, you activate the vagus nerve and it calms down the body. So I actually have another call to do shortly, but I wanted to do this because I promised that I was going to do a Facebook Live and talk about issues people have around grief and loss. So I kind of suggested I was going to answer one question, and that was, what do you do when you get triggered? So if you get triggered and you get really angry, or you get really negative towards yourself, one thing you can do is write it down, because otherwise it will just roll around in your head. And so you want to get it out. And then when you put it on paper, it looks a little different. And you can always tear up or burn that paper, and then you can completely get rid of it. The other thing, of course, is allowing the feelings. If you're feeling really down on yourself, and I know when I feel down on myself, I want to shift that energy as fast as possible. Oh, it's going to get in the way of my manifesting what I want, my dreams. It will stop things. I want to get it right. Others say, get it right. There is no right. There's only this moment. There's only who you really are. So breathe. So that's tip number 2, breathe. Write down the stuff until you get tired of writing, and breathe. And if you still feel tension, find out where it is in your body and ask your body what it wants to say. What are you saying right now? So check in with your body right now. Where is it holding its energy? Where is there tension? Oh, I think I feel a little tension in my legs. Yeah, that's probably my body saying, oh my God, I can't believe you're on here, Facebook Live, just chattering away. I want to run away right now. So you just say, okay, it's all right. No problem. Nobody's watching, not a single soul. They're too busy. It's Friday. It's okay. And you know what? You can just delete this and nobody will ever see it. Or maybe you won't, because the process is authenticity. Everything is about how can I become more myself? What kind of practices can you put into your life that will grow you, that will grow you into you, or will eliminate all those habits, or some of them, so that you can be more yourself? If you are having trouble or difficulty living your true authentic self, if there are ways in which you're putting yourself on hold, you're not stepping up, you're letting other people, which of course I did today, totally. If you're letting other people take precedence, you're putting them before you, your parents, your family, your children, or you sabotage yourself, or you find out that you really, really need to clean the house before you can do anything, or you get sick, or a million other ways in which we distract ourselves, and would like a conversation with somebody who knows that territory and knows how to listen, I invite you to have a conversation with me. Let us see how I might help you. Have a conversation by going to www.meetwithdrmichelle.com. Meet with Dr. Dr. Michelle with 2 L's.com. It's over there in the comments or in the description here. And why would you want to do that? Well, because you feel unfulfilled. You feel stuck. You have a bigger dream. Or you're stuck because you're struggling with some major life change. Or you're stuck because you are taking care of everybody else and you don't know how to extricate yourself from that. Or you've just dealt with a divorce and you are devastated and you have no idea where you're going from here. But oh my gosh, the world has opened up. It's almost too immense for you to even think about it. Or maybe you're facing the weekends and you are trying to figure out how you can stay busy so that you don't listen to yourself. If you can't spend at least 5 or 10 minutes of quiet time with yourself, then you have a habit of running away, of not being who you really are. Whoa, I have a call, so I have to end this. And thank you for joining, one and only person. I have to leave. It's a pretty interesting talk. It's totally off the cuff. And you have a great Friday. Bye for now.